Oh, you are in for a treat. Don't forget to hit that like button. Okay, darlings? Toodle pip. Now, before we get into this video, I'd like to remind you that you can now receive a special discount on your next watch from Watchbox. Check the description below for a promo code exclusively for the good Gentry. For those of you new to the channel, Watchbox are the world's leading, most trusted and respected dealers in pre-owned luxury watches. Onwards and upwards. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. So no wristwatch check today, as I am merely a voice from another horological dimension, but as this is all about Seiko, my corporeal form will be sporting something special from this list. So without further ado, let's get into it. At 20, we have the Seiko Shogun. This formidable, higher-end automatic diver is big, bold, and rugged, doing its nickname proud. Launched in 2008, the SBDC-007 soon became known as the Shogun, which is a hereditary commander-in-chief of feudal Japan. These military dictators would often be depicted in their full armor, which watch fans found similar to the shapes and pointed design elements found all over the watch. The cocktail, some might say, should not be on the list, as Seiko themselves created the nickname. First launched in 2010, the SRPB43 cocktail time was created in partnership with Shinobu Ishigaki, who is one of the world's most highly regarded mixologists and proprietor of the bar Ishinohana in Tokyo. Part of the mid-range Presage line of everyday dress watches, these exotically dialed automatic watches would expand dramatically over the years into a whole plethora of vivid and interesting colors, dial textures, all directly inspired by the cocktail creations of Mr. Ishigaki. The ultra-affordable 7S26 based automatic diver was first introduced to the Seiko 5 family of watches in the late 90s. It soon expanded to various colors, but the SNZF17K has become one of the most loved affordable alternatives to the Rolex Submariner with its monochrome color scheme. While more of a dive-style desk diver rather than a true ISO-level professional watch, it has earned the name Sea Urchin because of the longish minute markings on the dial that resembles the spines of the aquatic animal. The first generation was the SKZ327, which is a very capable automatic diver and was released around the same time as the TV show adaptation of the 1994 movie Stargate. Stargate SG1 ran from 1997 to 2007, but as you can immediately see, it got its name due to the very sculpted, pronounced rotating dive time bezel that resembles the portal from the Stargate fictional universe. The portal allows for practical, rapid travel between two distant locations, and it is unequivocally the best way to describe this watch, which happens to be one of the coolest and underrated watches in today's list. The Seiko Frankenmonster gets its nickname from the fact that the shroud screws on the sides look a bit like the bolts sticking out of Dr. Frankenstein's monster's neck. This watch was first released in 2007 and only ran for a very short time to 2009. The most numerous version is the SKZ247. Not only is this a fitting surmise of its style, but like the fictional monster, the design is something of a mishmash too. Essentially, it's an automatic Seiko 5, but housed in a Seiko Tuna style case with a Seiko monster bezel. The Seiko Naut refers to a family of watches in the ultra-affordable Seiko 5 line of automatics. These are often overlooked, and they were homages to the ultra-high-end Patek Nautilus luxury sports watch. The name is a simple but charming portmanteau of Seiko and Nautilus. Like many of the almost infinite amount of Seiko 5 watches, little is known regarding precise dates, but with a 7S26 and a modest size, it's insane value for money compared to the almost vulgar prices of the Patek. After the discontinuation of the legendary SKX range of professional automatic divers in 2019, Seiko caused quite a storm when its successor was released under the historic and revamped Seiko 5 line. This was to capture a new generation, a younger audience, with an expansive range of vibrant, fun, and more daring sports watches that was soon christened the 5KX. What creative genius in the Seiko enthusiast community did this is still a mystery, but I definitely applaud the creativity. The Seiko Darth Vader, or also known as the helmet, gets its name from the lovably curvaceous case that unmistakably resembles the Sith Lord's costume, which itself was based on samurai armor incidentally, and German military helmets. The 61397100 was part of a very important generation of early pioneering automatic chronographs of the early 70s, and once the first Star Wars movie was released in 1977, well, the rest is history. The Seiko 6309 is affectionately known as the Seiko Turtle. This dive watch first became available in 1977. The watch might have been inspired by the 6105, but it had a very different feel due to its curvy case that, yeah, you guessed it, resembles the shell of a turtle. This automatic entry-level diver would go on to have a long history and become revered as one of Seiko's most iconic, which has also been discussed in more detail during my recent review of a modern incarnation, the wonderful Mini Turtle. Any case in the range 61380010 to 61380019 is known to collectors as the UFO. It was first launched in Japan in 1970. It doesn't take a scientist to see why the nickname stuck to it. But what is really interesting is the later 61387,000 variation it inspired from the mid-70s that also included a slide rule bezel rather than the typical UFO tachymeter. If you have seen my Flightmaster history video, you'll know that this was the genesis of all subsequent Flightmasters. Here we see a Gentry classic, the only watch on this list to have its nickname given to it by you guys out there. The Seiko Flightmaster quartz chronograph comes in many forms, with a history going back to some historically important watches. Check out my video on its origins for a rather surprising look at how this tough aviation watch came to be. But it is the SNA 411, in particular from the late 90s, that has really captured not only my heart, but many watch enthusiasts' hearts. This was due to the compelling functions, great size, and highly detailed features. Like many watches I own, for example the Subby, the Speedy, longer names or references are often shortened, and thus the Flightmaster simply became the Flighty. This list would not be complete without the instantly recognizable, iconic gold dial and Pepsi bezeled Pogue. Named after astronaut William Pogue, he famously wore it into space for the Skylab 4 mission in 1973. Not only is this watch the first automatic chronograph to venture into this new frontier, but it was also powered by one of the first calibers to be self-winding with this complication. No matter how you look at it, it is an absolute legend. Launched in 2007, the Seiko SBDC-001 was a professional higher-end automatic diver that the designers themselves took direct inspiration from the Japanese wrestling culture. The shapes of the case are based on the anko and sopu that represent different body types of sumo wrestlers, and so later it became called the sumo. The 12 o'clock index marker also refers to the oicho top knot that is worn by sumo wrestlers in their hair. Once again, the armor and military weapons of feudal Japan returns to inspire another diver, but this time more obviously with the beloved samurai. The samurai has bold surfaces that result in a brutalist design, and talking of architecture, similar shapes are also found in buildings of that period. It looks like it has been slashed with a sword with parts that have been sliced off. And speaking of swords, the minute hand also resembles one too. Originally first released in limited numbers in 2004, it almost fell into complete obscurity, but had a cult following and became highly sought after by collectors. It was then updated in 2016 with a new generation that has since become one of the biggest hits for the entry-level automatic professional divers for the brand, with a ton of new versions, colors and dials. So if you know me, you know this watch and my profound love for its quirky 80s aesthetic. The Seiko Ripley gets its name from the movie character Ellen Ripley, played by the supremely talented Sigourney Weaver in the 1986 masterpiece Aliens. The original quartz chronograph 7A287,000 was designed by the renowned Italian car and industrial designer Giorgetto Giugiaro. Remember the Back to the Future DeLorean? Well, yeah, he did that too. However, it was not intended for battling HR Giga's aliens, but rather for motor racing drivers. Its asymmetrical pusher placement was designed for easier access when the hands are on the steering wheel. The movie director James Cameron, then a Seiko fan at the time, before Rolex came calling, is famously fanatical about attention to detail in his movies. Thus, when he saw its industrial sci-fi retro style, it was cast as Ripley's watch among several other Seikos in the film. Fast forward to 2016, and the watch returned, but no longer under the Speedmaster name, but under the Spirit Smart line, with the newer SCE D035 limited edition. Here we see another Seiko 5 in different color variations, this time an ultra-economic homage to the iconic Blancpain 50 Fathoms. A watch that costs almost 50 times as much as the Seiko. The 1953 Blancpain is legendary for being the first modern diver's watch. The Seiko is therefore a classically styled automatic dive watch that derives its nickname by cleverly combining the number 5 to create the 55 fathoms. This is the only watch, as far as I know, that Seiko modders have even gone so far as to print the name on custom-made dials. Yet another dive watch, but this time without a shadow of a doubt the most distinctive and polarizing professional diver of all time. The aptly named Monster was a revolutionary, fresh, new design when first released in 2000, as an extension to their SKX diving watch range. With harsh, unapologetic shapes, there is nothing subtle about it, hence the Marmite effect. The Seiko SKX 779 soon became extremely popular with those looking for an affordable tool watch. What followed was even more monstrous in style, with the addition of pointed teeth-like loomed markers, with the introduction of the substantially upgraded second generation and beyond. Watches being named after their famous wearers is nothing new, but unlike the Paul Newman Daytona, you will not have to pay an arm and a leg for this one. The utilitarian-looking H558-5009, which I have also previously reviewed and owned, is so synonymous with the movie star Arnold Schwarzenegger, it is simply called the Arnie. This is because he wore it off and on screen in 5 movies during his ascent to superstardom. But aside from helping to beat alien predators, Chicago mobsters, and endless hordes of Val Verde mercenaries, it made world history too. It was the world's first serious Ani-Digi dive watch to feature a chronograph and alarm when it was first introduced in 1982. It was then reinvented in a solar-powered update in 2019 to the sheer delight of Seikoholics and fans of the golden era of classic action movies. The Captain Willard, or sometimes just the Willard, is a highly memorable Seiko that was an important precursor to the Turtle we previously mentioned. The 6105-8110 from 1970 was made famous after appearing on Martin Sheen's wrist in the 1979 Vietnam War epic Apocalypse Now. Its wide and super rounded case is unlike any other at the time, and it was a 150-meter water-resistant automatic dive watch. Although it was never officially issued to troops, it was highly favored by American soldiers serving in the conflict, and hence why it was justly cast in the movie. It is for these combined three reasons why the watch features so high on the list. It has since also been re-released with souped-up modern incarnations, and now part of the prestigious Prospex line. This was a tough list to rank, but the Seiko Tuna has to be number one, simply for the numerous achievements, innovations, and massive amount of influence it has had. In 1968, Seiko received a letter from a professional diver requesting a dive watch that could withstand the rigors of saturation diving. It took them 7 years of testing and development, but in 1975 they introduced what is widely regarded as the most extreme diving watch of that age. The Seiko Marine Master reference 61597010 was unlike anything out there at the time, with a titanium case featuring a special, unique L-shaped gasket that made the watch impervious to the destructive helium gas that builds up during saturation diving. There was also an accordion-style rubber strap that has become now widely adopted by the entire industry. And finally, a futuristic protective outer shell that gave it a very distinct tuna can look, and hence the name. Elements of this design can be found in the Arnie, the Munster, the Frankenmonster, among many others. The watch, like so many discussed, would go on to be superseded by ever more robust divers, respected and used by professionals. It even made it into a James Bond movie, being worn by Roger Moore. So there you have it. Please don't forget to share your favorite watch and its nickname in the comments below. I'd love to hear that. Of course, it doesn't have to be just Seiko. Now don't forget to like this video if you'd like to see more like it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.